Okay. So I wanted to point out that the bulk of the training is not going to be conducted by me. I'm going to give just a quick overview of the Vista Campus Texas State page, but Mary Raleigh is going to give a thorough review of the applicant instructions, the applicant enrollment form and instructions. It has both the instructions and the form on there. And this is a required document for you to get your candidates into the pre-service orientation. And we will review where that is on the Texas State page during the training. And then Leslie McLean will give a review of how to submit impact stories, which we have a high expectation of that we receive those at a minimum of on a monthly basis. And I'll just show you where those will be uploaded into the Vista Campus Texas page, and you'll have an opportunity to share that. If you have questions while I'm conducting the training, I see, Carly, there's something on there about they can see the conversation but has nothing on their screen. There's not anything showing yet. I haven't displayed. I just have the presentation. You should just see on your screen the different participants that are participating in the training. That's all that's on the screen at the moment. If you're not able to hear anything, I recommend that you dial in. There was a dial-in number. So, all right. So moving on that, I'm jumping ahead and reading the conversation, and I'm just going to let Carly and Leslie stick with that. Everyone should have access to the Vista Campus Texas State page. If you don't, that's not a problem for today. Just send your program officer the email address that you use to get your Vista Campus account, and they'll be able to grant you the access to the Texas State page. But you cannot get it unless you've done that. And so I'm going to move to my desktop now, and we're going to talk a little bit about the Vista Campus and the Texas State page. If you have attended the Vista Supervisor training, you would have been sent information to create a Vista Campus account, and that's at vistacampus.gov. And this is the home page that we're looking at here. You should now be able to see that on your screen, and that should be available to you right on your screen right now. For you, you have a little bit different than I have on this top part, this banner right here where it says About Vista, Life as a Vista, the work. You can see as I scroll over those, they bring up headers for you to be able to click on. For you to get to the Texas State page, I think you click on your supervisors and it should say My State Office. And if you don't have that My State Office icon, it just means that you haven't provided the information to your program officer at this point. So that's basically how you get to that. For me, I just click on My State Office right here because it's available to me. So I'm going to give it a second to load up. It takes just a second or so. You should be able to see that screen now. If you can't, I need verbal notification because I can't see the chat at this time while I'm presenting. But when you log in, this is what you'll see. You'll see a postcard that says Greetings from the Lone Star State. So greetings. And you can see here there's a variety of information. And you can see in the middle here how to write impact stories, program descriptions, and contact information for the AmeriCorps programs across the state, which is different than that, an updated project director list. And then you can see in the middle here that there's discussion forums. This is where you'll post your VISTA program impact stories. And I can just click on that and give you a view of that real quick. And you should be able to see, well, we have an example here of an impact story from a current project, and they've highlighted their VISTA member. And you can go back and look, she submitted a $100,000 grant application. That's exciting. And so going back, if you want to add to the topic, you can go to Add New Forum Topic and click here. And it allows you to add a topic. And then when you click Save, that is actually sending, after you've done your subject and then you put your story in the body where you edit the summary. If you click Save, that actually sends it to the other participants on the state page via email. So just understand, saving doesn't just save it like you would save a Word file. It actually sends it forth. And if you keep hitting save, it will send it multiple times. So be cognizant of that as well. And you can also preview it prior to sending it out. So moving back, I'm heading back to the home page of the Texas State page. And I just use the back button up here to navigate. You'll see if you scroll down, there's other information such as VISTA project guidelines and policies. And you can find some travel policy and forms, some information about criminal history checks, the teleservice policies, and other policies that are important. Just know that that's a reference for you to know that those forms are there. The teleservice policy is very specific and is required an approval form if you were to have somebody to teleserve. So I'm moving back to the home page of the Texas State page, and you'll see there's information on project reporting, project application and renewal, project management. And there's a particularly important manual that I think most of you have used here, the Portal User Guide for Project Directors. This will be a reference that you use throughout when you're creating service opportunities, when you're developing VADs. You'll want to use that to be sure you have the steps to enter it into using the portal through the eGrants system. So that's a document that you'll want to have access to and might want to bookmark. I also wanted to share with you this search function. I use this quite a lot. And so as you begin your recruitment process, it's important to know that you'll have to submit service opportunities and VADs. And I use this quite a bit. Here's an example. If I wanted to seek some information about service opportunities, I just put that in there. I click the magnifying glass. And then there's training webinars and also written documents on creating service opportunity listings. You also will receive training on this while you attend the VISTA supervisor training. Some of you have attended and some of you will be going next week or later in the year of 2017. The same can be done as you work on your VADs, which also have to be submitted for you to approve an applicant. And you can just put VADs in there or VAD, and it'll bring up information as well. And I'm just going to let that do its thing while we're waiting for that. And then you'll see there's just a plethora. You can see there's 8 pages of documents of sample VADs, adapting VADs, a blank VAD template. So if you want to work outside of eGrants before you actually put it into eGrants, there's just a variety of information that other project directors have shared throughout the years on here. So this is some important things for you, because if you've already gone to the training or the supervisor training, or you're going to attend, I can attest to you that there will be a mound of information that will overwhelm you, and just know that you have this availability on the VISTA campus to find things readily through that search function. So I'm going to head back to that Texas homepage to show you one more document before I pass things on to Mary Raleigh. So back on the Texas state page, if you go to enrolling and managing VISTA members, and you look below where it says additional resources, you'll find the 2017 Texas PSO calendar, and that's right here. I'm going to click on that and show you that calendar. I highly recommend printing this out and using it as a tool. If it does get updated or there's changes to it, we will alert you. So you'll see that there on the form there are PSO dates. It shows the location, and then it provides you with what's called the service start and end dates to enter in service opportunity listing. Be sure that you use these exact dates here when making your listing. For the classic pre-service orientations, we also include the training period that they attend there, even though their service where they receive a living allowance is only for the 1 year, 365 days. We still include that date so that they know that they need to be available while you're using that dates for the recruitment process, to be sure that your candidates are fully aware that they have to be available on that first day of PSO. It also provides deadlines. You'll see that the deadline for having your opportunity listings in eGrants was yesterday. Obviously, we're having this training today and providing these deadlines. If your program officer already made you aware of this, you should be sure to get those in there as soon as possible. For some of you that attended training last week, work with your program officer on appropriate extended due date to make sure you get that. I just want to be sure that you understand getting your service opportunity in as soon as possible give you the optimal recruitment opportunities. So please be sure to do that. The next step in the process is once you have interviewed and deciding that you're going to select an applicant, you have to actually select them through the eGrant system, and they have to accept the position, and they are required to accept it by that due date on the form there. So for the March pre-service orientation, they would have to accept by February 6, 2017, and your applicant enrollment form will be due to your program officer by that date as well. These are really important deadlines because once we, the program officers, get this paperwork, we have a series of things that we do for the review of that applicant. And if we have a lot of applicants, it takes up some time. So the other thing that we ask that you do is if you've accepted somebody a week before and everything's taken care of, go ahead and send that enrollment form in with just that one or two people and add to the enrollment form as you bring on more people. That way we can start processing the applicants in advance and make sure that we get their checks started from the beginning. So, and then that's basically how you can kind of use the VISTA campus and peruse it. I highly recommend putting time on your calendar to surf the VISTA campus and the Texas State page and find out where your resources are, where you just have an hour or two to do that. I know that sounds remedial or rote, but it will help you throughout your year if you know where the resources are. So before we move to Mary, are there any questions?
Katie, this is Leslie. Would you mind going over, applicants who might have a criminal history that they've disclosed on their application and
Mary's going to go over that on number 4.
Great. Thanks.
Yep. So we will definitely cover that. Oops, I clicked the wrong one. Okay, so I'm going to turn it over to Mary, and are there any other questions? Okay, great.
Great, thanks, Katie. This is Mary, and I'm going to go over the applicant enrollment form in pretty thorough detail, although you'll find as we go through it that it's pretty self-explanatory. So hold on just a moment while I pull up my screen on the presentation so we can all look at the Excel form together. Okay, it should be presenting. Can folks see it all right? Okay, so right now you should be seeing the Texas State page. You'll see, as Katie went through, that this is our Texas State page. And right here, you'll see the link to the applicant enrollment instructions and form. Periodically, we'll update this. This has last been updated earlier this year. We'll probably update it probably later this year as well. So to access the form that you're going to need to turn in once you have accepted your applicants and you want to submit them to the state office for our review, you're going to click on this link, and it's going to open up this Excel form. So you're going to see here, it's pretty self-explanatory, but it's going to open on this tab, the VISTA enrollment form tab. If you'll scroll over to the left, you'll see instructions. And here you'll see step-by-step instructions, really reviewing what Katie said about the process for, first you're receiving the application, how you're reviewing them, and how you're getting those applications into us for our review. And also in your supervisor's orientation, they're going to go through this process and how to go through the steps in eGrant in depth. And you can also, as Katie mentioned, refer back to that portal instructions that was also linked on the state page. So that will also be a resource for you. And of course, if you have questions, you can contact your program officer. The next tab, which is actually what we call the form, even though it's kind of a glorified spreadsheet, is our applicant enrollment form. And those need to be submitted to us by the due date that is on that PSO calendar that Katie just pulled up. So this is the form that we need completed for each VISTA member applicant that you would like to put and enroll in a PSO. You'll see the columns here, your sponsor name. This will be the name of your organization. So maybe it's Big Brothers Big Sisters. Maybe it's YWCA. This will be your sponsor name, your grant number you will have from eGrant, your member first name and last name. These are the VISTA applicants that you are putting forward for our review that you would like to bring on board and have serve at your project. The member purpose code, you'll see a little comment here. This is where you'll fill in the member purpose code. Whether they're a standard VISTA, it will be A22. If they're a cost share VISTA member, it would be Q09. If you have a VISTA leader, it would be A20. Keep in mind, though, that you will put your purpose codes on there, but we also will review your application and your budget to see how many cost share members you have on board and how many standard members you have on board. And so we may change these, and we will let you know. But this is, opening up a conversation for us as to how many spots you have for standard members and cost share members on your grant. So please put down, how you have budgeted it. The next one is their service start date and their service end date. Their start date for the PSO blend, which is the online pre-service orientation, will be that first day of the online pre-service orientation. If they attend an in-person pre-service orientation or PSO, their start date will be the day after that because they're sworn in that last day of their training, their in-person training. And then their service end date will be the 1 year minus 1 day from their service start date. So we have as an example here February 22nd, 2016, and then their service end date would be the 21st of 2017. The next column that you'll complete is just a yes or no. Are they relocating to serve at your project? Relocating means, are they going to be moving 50 miles or more? If they are, please put yes, because that means that they will also receive some relocation assistance. In addition to some travel reimbursements, they will also receive a cash payment to help them settle in. We call it a settling in allowance. So we want to make sure that everybody who is relocating to serve does receive those benefits that they're entitled to. So if they're relocating 50 miles or more, please press yes, or please put a Y on there. The member pay rate, this is the monthly amount that the VISTA member will receive for their stipend, their living allowance. This is before taxes. And in Texas, every county, the member pay rate is $990, and that's for members, not for leaders. If you are having members that are serving outside of Texas, please contact your program officer, and they will provide you a list of all of the county living allowance rates across the country, and we can fill in that right amount. The next one is probably the more labor-intensive one, which is your service category number. And for this one, you'll see a little comment pop up. So see the service categories tab. So let's see it. Service categories tab. You're going to kind of scroll down through here and find what is the service category that your VISTA member is going to work on. So maybe they're going to be working towards disaster preparation. The blue areas is where you're going to find your service category number, so it's going to be 100. The green is when the work focuses on veteran services. So say they're doing disaster preparation only focused or primarily focused on veterans, it would be 1,820. Generally, we find that most of them will fall under the blue, so it would be 100. So you would scroll down and kind of find it, financial literacy, food security, if you're working with food banks or food security issues, 520. So you would find the correct number, and then you would go back to the spreadsheet, and you would put in the number right here. The next 5 columns are for the online PSOs, and we call them the PSO blends. This is to make sure that people or members are able to participate in those trainings and get the maximum benefit for it. So we're looking, because it is an online training, we need to make sure that they have oral English proficiency, basic literacy skills, basic computer skills, a reliable internet and phone connection. And then the final one is whether or not they need adaptive devices or assistance. We've also put this tab on the bottom here, and this will go into more depth as to what exactly these questions are asking and why we need to know the answers to them. You'll see here that if any of your candidates are missing any of these 5 criteria, please contact us so that we can make sure that we are able to enroll them in a training that will appropriately meet their needs. In no way are any of these things exclusions to serving, but we want to make sure that our training is really able to meet their needs. So if you find that on this enrollment form any of these are marked no, or if they will need adaptive devices or assistance, please contact your program officer so we can talk to the training unit. Finally is the service category name, and this is the association with the service category number, financial literacy, food security, whatever that will be. Generally, you'll find that in your projects, most of your members may work on a certain issue. Maybe it is, homelessness services, or if it is food security. You may find that a number of your members work on the same issue, which is tied to your agency's mission. So those you'll find that you may share service category numbers and service category names across members, and that's totally fine. The site name, this is the place where the member is physically serving. The site address. We would like a street address here, not a P.O. box, of the place where the member is physically serving. Their city, their state, their zip code +4. It's important to have the +4, and if you don't have it, you can find it on the U.S. Postal Service's website. It's pretty easy to look up the +4s on there. The county that they're serving, and this is going back to their pay rate. We want to make sure that we have the correct county and the correct pay rate for members. So I'm going to scroll further on this spreadsheet to the end. And then finally, their site supervisor's first name, their last name, their phone number, and the email for their site supervisor. So really, this is telling us, where is that person physically serving? Where are they sitting? If there's an emergency and we need to contact them, where can we contact them at? And if there's an emergency and we need to talk to their supervisor, how can we get a hold of that supervisor? So that's why it's important information to have on this enrollment form. So finally, when you have it completed, you'll save it and then you'll email it to your program officer. As Katie mentioned, if you are enrolling 10 members in a single PSO and maybe you have 5 of them identified and selected, 2 weeks before the deadline, please send that form in to us so we can get to work reviewing those 5 before you have the other 5 finalized. There's no need to wait till you have everybody kind of selected to send us the form. We're happy to accept it as you have members accept your selection so that we can start reviewing their applications and enrolling them. Any questions on the enrollment form? Okay, hearing none, I'll go on and chat a little bit about fingerprinting and criminal history. For folks who have attended the supervisor's orientation, I know that they go over this in depth, and for people who are heading out soon, they'll also talk about this in depth. For fingerprinting and criminal history, there is a section on the member's application where they ask for applicants to disclose criminal history, past charges or convictions. We really want to make sure that people are honest with us when they fill that out and that they fill out their complete criminal history report. Sometimes people forget or, things happened in the past or, 10, 20 years ago and they think, I don't have to list this because it's past 10 years. But those kind of charges are going to show up when we do the fingerprint checks, the FBI fingerprint checks for all members serving. And unfortunately, if they have not disclosed that information, it can be a grounds for terminating the member. So we want to make sure that we don't get into that situation where we're terminating a member because they didn't disclose a criminal history charge or conviction. So please, when you are talking to applicants, communicate this to them and please tell them to be, honest and forthcoming in that section. Criminal history is absolutely not a barrier to serve, but it is something that we need to get approved through our legal department. There are certain things that do bar an applicant from serving, if there is a murder charge or if there is some additional charges. But, generally we've found that for minor charges, especially when they happen a long time ago and, a member has shown that they are interested and have the desire to serve, we really want to, help them in that. So if there is a criminal history issue, please contact your program officer and we can talk about it one-on-one as the applicant comes up. Leslie, do you have anything to add on that one?
It's just helpful, as you're reviewing applications, if any of your candidates do have a disclosure of criminal history check, of a criminal conviction in the past, just to let us know to be on the lookout for that so that we can start our process as soon as possible and we don't miss a deadline because of it.
Yeah, that's a great point. And in no way is a criminal history a barrier to service, but the further in advance we know and the more we know, the better we're able to work with you and the applicant in, helping to see if they're able to serve.
Mary, the criminal history isn't a barrier unless it's a sexual offense or a murder, just to be clear on that. A homicide.
Okay, yeah, those are the big no's. So those are hard no's. Thank you, Katie, for chiming in there. The next part about that is the fingerprinting. And for folks who do have members on board, that we send you these fingerprint cards that your members need to fill out in their first, I believe it's 4 weeks of service. So You will get information about this at your supervisor's orientation. Your members will get lots of information about this at their pre-service orientation. And when we send you via UPS the fingerprint cards, we'll also send you instructions, as well as send your members instructions on how to complete them and submit them to DC. So just be aware that your members ideally during their first week or two of service, will have to go and get their fingerprints taken, and then they'll send those physical cards, we call them fingerprint cards, back to DC for their review for the criminal history check review. But they'll go over that a lot in supervised orientation, and the members also themselves get a lot of training on that in the pre-service orientation too. The next thing I'm going to chat about a little bit is about progress reports. Just real briefly, for the first year of the VISTA grant, you will have quarterly progress reports. The instructions for how to complete those progress reports can be found on the VISTA campus, and I'll come through here. And just like Katie said, a real good way is just searching them. So you can search on progress report instructions and it'll pull it up. After the first year of your grant, you will have biannual progress reports, or every 6 months. There's also an annual progress report supplement, which you may have just heard about because it was just due at the end of October. And that is an annual report that asks for data across all programs that we roll up here at CNCS. So, it's worth it now, once your progress reports are scheduled, to take a look in eGrants and look at kind of what they're going to look like, so you can start collecting that data for when you submit them. As it says in the agenda, these progress reports are due to us whether or not you have members on board. They're based on your grant years, not based on the members' serving years. The directions are found on the VISTA campus. Any questions about progress reports?
Supposed to submit an evaluation by the end of year 2.
Okay, I hear a little bit of background noise, so if folks can just make sure to mute their phones, that'd be wonderful.
Whatever she gave me. We'll have to make time to go over. Yeah.
Okay, well, let's power through. Can folks make sure their phones are muted?
And I even
Gail, I think that's Gail. Gail, we're hearing you in the background. Can you mute your phone, please?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Katie. The next thing that I'm going to chat about is the sponsor verification form. Every 2 weeks, you will log into the portal and you will verify that your members are on board and serving. And this is what we use to run our living allowance amount so that folks get paid on time. So please make sure that the sponsor verification forms are completed and submitted on time. We don't want for members and their living allowance to get delayed in any way because this is done. So, I recommend just putting a calendar reminder on there so that it does get completed every 2 weeks. And they'll also review this during the supervisor's orientation. That said, I'm going to pass it on to Leslie to chat a little bit about VISTA gear and impact stories. So again, like Katie said, bear with us on the transfer of power here.
Thank you so much, Mary. Okay, so just give me a minute. Okay. Are y'all able to see my screen? Anyone?
It looks like it's still loading.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me know when the nationalservice.gov website comes up for you guys.
Leslie?
Yes.
If you can speak up a little bit or get closer to your phone, that might help too. Thanks.
Sure. Is that better? Okay, so are y'all able to see my desktop.
Leslie, I think you need to open your Skype and just open it back up, and there's a thing that says where you accept ownership, what Carly just said.
Okay, I'm not seeing that option on my screen. Hold on a sec. I see present desktop.
Yeah, so pick that. And then once you do that, there'll be a thing that comes up for you.
I think I got it now.
Great.
It says it's loading.
Yep, there it goes.
Sorry, guys. Okay. So now can you all see the nationalservice.gov website?
Yes.
Great. Okay, so as Mary was saying, I'm going to chat just a little bit about the importance of branding. Your VISTA members at their PSO will receive a VISTA polo shirt and a lapel pin. It's very important that they wear those when they're out meeting with community partners or anytime they're out in the community. It's important that folks recognize them as AmeriCorps VISTA members as well as representatives of your organization. So along with the gear, which on the nationalservice.gov website, you can actually order additional gear for your members if you choose, and I'll show you kind of what that looks like. These are great things for you to provide at on-site orientation and training. We have backpacks, we have T-shirts, we have some old gear, we have bags, cups, so you name it. So that's an idea for you all as a recognition of your members throughout their service year, that you can come onto this National Service Gear website and order these items for your members. It is also important that they use the AmeriCorps logo, the AmeriCorps VISTA logo, on any official correspondence, so they can use that logo along with the sponsoring organization's logo. And their email signature should also identify them as an AmeriCorps VISTA member. So that's all I was going to say about gear and logos. Does anyone have any questions about that? Okay. Anything in the chat? Let me check and see real quick. Doesn't look like it.
We're fine.
Okay, so now we're going to talk.
Just keep going.
Excuse me?
I just said we're following the chat. You can just keep presenting.
Okay, great. I am now going to talk a little bit about impact stories. As we mentioned earlier, our director Terry this is one of his big important issues, and something that he really looks at on a monthly basis is the impact stories that you submit through our Texas State page of the VISTA campus. So I'm going to talk really briefly about those impact stories and what they should look like. But just know that this presentation is also a PDF document on our Texas State page, and you can refer back to it anytime. So what is an impact story? It's just tells a story of your members and how their work is impacting the community. It should be brief, no more than 3 or 4 sentences long, and just get to the nitty-gritty. The audience, beyond the state office, should be your agency leadership. You should share these with all the members on your project. And we, in turn, share your stories with our leadership on a monthly basis. Those reports are then aggregated and sent to Congress and other elected officials. And you should also, feel free to send them to other potential funders. So, of course, post them to the Texas State page. You could also include them in your progress reports, share them with your agency leaders or advisory boards. It's a great idea to share them with local media, post them on Facebook and other social media platforms such as Twitter. What to write about, anything exciting that's coming up, any successes that your members have had in any of our focus areas, and also any challenges that your project is facing. We rarely get these impact stories as the form of a challenge that you're having, and it's a good opportunity for us to have a conversation about those challenges and maybe brainstorm some possible solutions. So the impact stories answer 4 questions: where, who, how, and what were the results. So you'll name the VISTA member in your story, name your agency, the city and state where the member is serving, and the name of the event if that's applicable. Who is involved? Partnerships with other national service programs. So if your VISTA project partners with an AmeriCorps state project, for example, or a Senior Corps project in your community. Partnerships with other public and nonprofit agencies. So what partnerships have your VISTA members created or strengthened? High-profile people, city or state officials, those are always welcome, and our Office of Governmental Affairs really appreciate getting those stories when city and state officials attend events. Then you answer who's affected by the impact, and did it get any media coverage? So it's also important to talk about how the VISTA members' activities are building capacity. Are they developing fundraising strategies, recruiting and training new volunteers, or designing new programs? And then finally, what are the results of the effort? Be as specific as you can with these stories. So if a VISTA member writes a grant that's awarded, make sure to say how much it's for, who the funder was, what it will be used for. Same with number of volunteers recruited, etc. So some tips for writing your stories. Start from the premise that the reader doesn't know your project or your community. So someone in D.C. reading this will not be familiar with, Waco, Texas and the needs there. Make your opening sentence a grabber. So, really get folks' attention from the start. Use action words. Talk about activities and results. And avoid using any acronyms or phrases that are specific to your agency or your focus area, so that it's accessible to everyone. I'm not going to read this, but here's an example of a good impact story from Cornerstone Assistance Network. And again, this is on the Texas State page of the VISTA campus if you wanted to look at it more closely. And here is another example. This one is an example of a write-up from MLK Day, which is one of our special initiatives every year. So if you have any questions, obviously you're free to ask them now, or ask your program officer or the state office at tx@cns.gov. So does anyone have any questions about the impact stories? Okay, great. Well, I'm pretty sure that concludes our presentation today. I'm going to stop presenting and check back on the chat to make sure I'm not missing anything there. Mary, Katie, or Carly, anything else you would like to add before we end?
This is Katie. I'm sorry, did I interrupt somebody?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, this is Katie. I don't have anything to add. I was just going to let folks know that I am going to stop the recording at this time.